Before we go any further, I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up tomorrow and the internet is unreliable, not gone, just unstable, payments delayed, apps glitching, accounts under review. How many of your income streams survived that week? Gran Betty never had to imagine this scenario. For her, income wasn't something that lived behind a screen. It lived in cupboards, in conversations, in favours owed and favours returned. And that difference changes everything. Before we start, let me paint you a picture. It's early morning. The kettle is already boiling. There's flour on the counter, a radio humming softly in the background, and Gran Betty is tying her apron like she's done 1,000 times before. No phone, no notifications, no panic, just purpose. How did someone with no internet, no credit score, and no side hustle strategy manage to feel more financially secure than most people today? Because right now, we're chasing digital income that disappears overnight. One algorithm change, one account shutdown, one price increase, and the money stops. Gran Betty never had that fear. Her income couldn't be turned off. She lived in the golden age of offline hustle, where money was slow, human, and dependable. She didn't try to reach thousands of people. She focused on becoming essential to the people who lived within walking distance. And that's where most modern advice gets it wrong. The internet is crowded, your street isn't. Gran Betty didn't have a brand. She had a reputation. She understood something powerful. Money is just stored energy. And if you can create value with your hands, your time, or your skills, you can always convert that energy into income. When she baked, the smell of Victoria's sponge didn't just fill the kitchen, it travelled. Neighbours would just happen to stop by. A cake that cost barely £1 to make quietly turned into £5 worth of value, or better yet, something she actually needed. Sometimes cash, sometimes eggs, sometimes help mending a fence. She never asked, "How much can I charge?" She asked, "What is this worth to them?" And that mindset changed everything. She also understood that the richest information in town wasn't online, it was at the butcher's counter. She heard the tired sighs of mums worried about school uniforms. She noticed who was rushed, who was struggling, who needed help but didn't want to ask. So she made herself useful. No website, no flyers, just a handwritten note in the corner shop window. One small solution in the right place, and suddenly she wasn't competing with anyone. She was needed. When people talk about networking, they imagine awkward conversations and business cards. Gran Betty's networking was simpler. She remembered names, she made introductions, she connected people. If you needed a plumber, you asked Betty. And when that plumber got the job, something always found its way back to her doorstep. Not because it was expected, but because trust creates return. There was one winter that tested everything. Coal prices rose, deliveries were late. People were worried but pretending not to be. You could hear it in how conversations trailed off, how people lingered longer at the shop counter. Gran Betty didn't panic. She baked less and mended more. She traded earlier. She called in favours she'd never rushed to use before. And when the cold settled in, she was warm. Not because she had more money, but because she'd already converted her skills into security. That winter taught me something important. Resilience isn't loud, it's prepared. Fixing things was her quiet magic. In a world that threw everything away, she repaired. She rescued stools, resold boots, reused jars, saved buttons, saved string. And when something broke, people didn't Google it. They knocked on her door. That knock is what real security sounds like. Looking back, Gran Betty was practicing something I now call the useful person principle. The more useful you are to real people, the less fragile your life becomes. Not famous, not scalable, useful. Usefulness is immune to trends. It doesn't need updates. It doesn't disappear when platforms change. And once you understand this, you stop chasing income. income starts circling you. Here's the uncomfortable mirror moment. Ask yourself this. If you couldn't buy anything for the next 30 days, how many problems could you solve without spending money? That answer tells you everything about your resilience. Gran Betty would have been fine. She'd bake, she'd fix, she'd trade, she'd help. And in return, life would meet her halfway. Here's what worries me. We're raising a generation that knows how to monetize attention, but not how to mend a thing. We know how to market ourselves, but not how to make ourselves needed. And when systems strain, attention loses value fast. But usefulness doesn't. That's why Gran Betty never felt obsolete. She aged into relevance. Most people don't need another income stream. They need to notice what they already know how to do. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to build a brand. You don't need to be online. You need one skill, one street, and one person who trusts you. So ask yourself this tonight. What do people already ask you for help with? What can you fix without thinking? What do you do that doesn't need Wi-Fi? That's not a hobby. That's income waiting to be activated. If you remember nothing else from this, remember this line. Your safest income is the one that makes other people calmer when you're around. Gran Betty didn't just earn money. She reduced stress. And people will always pay, one way or another, for that. Gran Betty didn't leave behind a business plan. She left behind proof. And proof is more valuable than promises. If this story made you rethink income, hit like so it reaches someone who needs it. Subscribe if you want more grounded, real-world ways to build money that doesn't disappear. And tell me in the comments, what's your Gran Betty skill? Because your future income might not be online. It might be right in front of you.